When you were growing up as a little kid, were there ever moments where you wish you could just kind of get on with it and grow up, turn into an adult, or maybe just be an adult for a few seconds just to see what it was like? I remember one time when I was 6 or 7 years old, my brother and I were playing in our room, and I pretended to be a grown-up professional mathematician, and my brother was my client. Once a nerd, always a nerd, right? I don't even know if mathematicians have clients, but there is this desire within me to be an adult and have the freedoms that adults do and be able to drive anywhere I wanted or do whatever I wanted. And now that I am all grown up, I realized that while there were certain things that I got right about what being an adult is actually like, there were a lot of huge misconceptions I had about it. And I feel like becoming debt-free is the same thing in many ways, at least for Brittany and I. When we were going through our debt-free journey, paying off all of our debt, there were all these things that we thought being debt-free would be like, that in the end, being debt-free just wasn't like at all for us. Not to say it was bad, they were just misconceptions that we had.
So if you're new to the channel, Mike and I spent the first 3 years of our marriage paying off $120,000 worth of debt. And for the next 5 years, we were debt-free until we bought this house. So we are consumer debt-free, but we do have a mortgage now after the purchase of this home about 4 months ago.
So what we're talking about in this video is going to be looking back at everything that Brittany and I went through, paying off our debt, becoming debt-free, thinking about all the misconceptions that we had. And I'm willing to bet that if we had these misconceptions, we are not the only people who had these misconceptions. So if you want to become debt-free, or if you're already in the process of becoming debt-free, hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have more of an idea of what things are like at the finish line. So with all that being said, what's up guys? I'm Mike.
And I'm Brit.
And let's get one thing out of the way very quickly. This video is by no means being made to say that becoming debt-free is not worth it. It is 100% worth it in Brittany's and my mind. We don't regret it at all. But there are some misconceptions I think that people have about being debt-free and what it's actually like. And that's what we're gonna be talking about. Let's get into it.
So the first misconception Mike and I had after becoming debt-free was that we would have less financial responsibilities. This wasn't the case. Just because we had gotten rid of 8 or 9 of our bills, and technically it did free up a lot of those financial responsibilities, it basically brought us to different realizations and other things we had to pay for. So things like a emergency fund. So we wanted to save up 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, and also to invest, a trip to Hawaii, things like that.
So in terms of our bills, both of us had car loans.
Yep.
I had one student loan, and then Brittany had like 5 or 6 other student loans that...
I had a lot.
Technically, when we became debt-free, we had all these bills that we didn't have anymore. But other things took their place, and we're not, like Brittany and I are not talking about lifestyle creep here, where like, for example, if you get a raise and you have a bunch more money coming in, then you're spending a bunch more money on toys and things, and like, you're not saving anymore. That's not what we're talking about. There are all these other responsibilities that come into play after you become debt-free that are kind of like the next steps, so to speak. And if you're following Dave Ramsey's baby steps, becoming debt-free is only step 2. There are 5 more after that. So since Brittany and I were kind of on the Dave Ramsey plan during this time, the next biggest step for us after becoming debt-free was to fully fund our emergency fund.
Right.
So we became debt-free, and then all the extra money that we had coming in, we put toward an emergency fund. We didn't really spend anything else on us. Which leads us into the second misconception that Brittany and I had about being debt-free, is that we would have more money as soon as we became debt-free. And logically, I have no idea why we even thought this. Like, it makes no sense that we would just automatically have more money without
putting in more effort to get it, basically.
Yeah. So like at the end of the day, we were able to use more of our income. So we have more disposable income at our fingertips. We have more access to potential freedom and choices. We have more of that, but we didn't have more money just because we were debt-free. In fact, we had the least amount of money we had ever had in our bank account when we became debt-free. So at the end of the day, like, the amount of money that you have is still going to be based on your income, your expenses, and how much financial discipline you are willing to put into practice in your life. However, you will get to keep more of your money if you choose to do that, because that money would have been going out into payments, and you don't have to do that anymore.
Our third misconception was about being debt-free and having a fully funded emergency fund. We thought we wouldn't have to work as much, and I especially thought this.
So Brittany and I thought just because we had $20,000 or $30,000 in the bank that we could just prop our feet up on the couch and take a few months off, but nope. So like all of Brittany's and my regular expenses, everything but the debt payments, like those don't go away.
Right.
And unless you're in a living condition where your cost of living is only like $500 a month, a $20,000 to $30,000 emergency fund goes away very quickly. It gets eaten up very quickly. And I think back then Brittany's and my living expenses were like $2,500 a month, somewhere around there. So
Yeah, I think it was around 2,000 to 25.
yeah, and some months there were more, like medical things happen or car things happen. And the point is, like, a big sum of money, however large it is, will eventually go away if you don't have any passive sources or like investment sources of income kind of like supplementing what you're already doing. So for example, if I had $10,000 cash, we'll take this $10,000 right here. This actually isn't $10,000, it's prop money. But this $10,000 has a time limit if I'm just using it for regular expenses. However, if I were to instead invest this money at about a 6% return, that's $50 a month for life. That money never runs out, assuming the stock market's still good. And if the stock market's not good, I mean, we have much bigger concerns to worry about.
So a truth we learned about becoming debt-free and having an emergency fund, even though we still needed to work, if for any reason we wanted to move or change a job, we had a lot more peace of mind about doing that. So if you're unhappy in your work environment, it's a lot easier to change jobs or quit because you no longer have all those bills that you know are strapping you down financially, and you have a large emergency fund.
So if you don't like the job that you're currently in and you're debt-free and you have a 6-month emergency fund, worst case scenario, if it takes 2 or 3 months to find a job, it's not going to cause nearly as much mental stress as it would if you were in a job working just for ends meet to pay all of your bills in the process of becoming debt-free. It's a lot more stressful thinking about getting different work while you're in the process of becoming debt-free compared to when it is after you become debt-free and you have an emergency fund. So all this leads us into the fourth and final misconception that Brittany and I are going to talk about what being debt-free is like. And that is, being debt-free is the end goal. That was the misconception that we had. I think that I had more so than Brittany did, maybe. The truth is that being debt-free is not the end goal. Everything else that we've talked about in this video can probably be like umbrellaed under this one general concept. In Brittany's and my scenario, we had $120,000 of debt 8 years ago. When we first got married, we were barely making like $45,000 a year. So bare minimum, just in terms of the mathematics, probably 4 or 5 years to pay it off. Now, it ended up taking us 3 years, but that's just because we got a lot of jobs and raised our income to about $140,000 per year by the end of the time we were becoming debt free. The point is, when you have like this huge mountain of debt staring you in the face, like right in front of you, that's pretty much all you can see. And like it just blocks your field of vision to everything else. And it's kind of like that old saying, like you lose sight of the forest due to all the trees in your way. That's kind of like what I felt like. And this may not be the same for everybody out there. I think this is largely going to depend on how much debt you have and how long it's going to take to pay off. Like I said before, we were following Dave Ramsey's plan, and of course, becoming debt-free is not the only thing that Dave Ramsey talks about. He talks about all sorts of other stuff. Investing for your future, paying off your house early, saving for your kids' college funds, building wealth and giving. Like there's all sorts of things that his message is about. Although becoming debt-free is, I think, how he helps the vast majority of his audience. It's just so easy to get caught up in paying off this debt, and that's like all your mind is focused on. And Brittany and I have made a couple of other videos about this.
Yeah.
That it's really easy to start thinking about becoming debt-free as the end goal, and that's all that life is about. If you're in that situation right now, we feel you. We get it.
That focus, though, did help us get through it, and also helped us get through it a lot faster, as Mike mentioned, to raise our income to just get it done with.
Yeah.
But after we learned, there's definitely more to it than just becoming debt-free.
Yeah, and after Brittany and I were done paying off all of our debt, we were kind of like above the forest at this point. We could kind of look down and see an overhead view of everything, and we were like, oh yeah, I now remember all these other things that we heard about like at the very beginning, 3 years ago. So if you're in the middle of everything right now, like you're in the war zone, you're gazelle intense, like Dave Ramsey would say, use your mental focus to your advantage. Like continue to use that, because like Brittany said, that was probably the biggest reason that we were able to become debt-free
as fast as we did.
Yeah, in 3 years rather than like 4 or 5 or 6. But also try and keep in mind that becoming debt-free is not the end goal. There's a lot of other things after that becoming debt-free will help you get to, that would be kind of difficult to get to without becoming debt-free. So with all that being said, guys, those were Brittany's and my 4 biggest misconceptions about what being debt-free was like when we were embarking on our debt-free journey initially. Like I said before, everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different financially. Like you're going to have more or less debt than we had to pay off. It may take you more or less time than it took us. May take you a month or two. People's situations can be different. So if you don't have these misconceptions, maybe comment below about some misconceptions that you had. Or if Brittany and I missed something, leave it in the comments below. We hope this video was helpful for you guys. If it was, please give it a huge thumbs up. It helps out the YouTube algorithm tremendously.
And don't forget to subscribe for more and follow us on Instagram at It's Mike and Brit.
Yep, we have an Instagram account. We post there pretty much every now and then. So follow us there if you want to. Also, our budget template is in the description below. That's pretty much the outline of how Brittany and I budget every month. If you are looking to start budgeting, or maybe you need some help budgeting, take a look at it. It's totally free, no email address required. Also, our Robinhood link is in the description below. That's the investment platform that we use to invest. If you're interested in investing, or just maybe interested in Robinhood in general, sign up using our link. You get a free stock, we get a free stock. It helps out everybody. And with that being said, you guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
This video is in. So with all that.
And don't forget to
If you didn't.